Okay, I would request everyone to sit down. We are starting with the next session. So please come in. It's a very important topic because we are looking at the next generation. So please come in. It's very loud. And also please come forward. Please fill the seats. That would be very nice. All right. In case you have not given feedback, I have to repeat this. And if you don't give us feedback, I will now start giving it to a person, and the person needs to fill it out, the short poll, and then pass it on, and it's very heavy. So please let us know. We can only improve if we get your feedback. All right, I'm handing over to our moderator. We are looking at the next generation, very important topic. Please, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Better. I'm like, am I talking to? It's a youth. As you can see, it's a youth panel. My name is Jessica Bwali. I am a Global Campaigns Associate for Tearfund. So I think just before we get to our topic for today, I don't know if you're noticing anything. I'm carrying a green bottle. I'm wearing a green dress. This morning, actually, when I came here, I was blessed with this green pen, this green writing pad. Well, my shoes, they have a bit of green. I don't know who else is wearing green in here, but it looks like a green day. So, which is a good sign. And we're talking about green jobs. Coincidentally, I didn't plan it. I may have planned it, but yeah. So welcome to this panel. So this afternoon, we'll be looking at the role. So we have on the screen there, you can see youth and good green jobs. We have 3 speakers, well-able speakers, and this is a collaboration between Climate Yes and Tearfund. So we'll have our 2 speakers from Climate Yes, and we also have our speaker from Tearfund. So I'll start by introducing the first speaker, who is Mandisa. So Mandisa, if you could just introduce yourself, where you're coming from, and if you could just introduce Climate Yes to everyone in case some of them are hearing it for the very first time.
Thank you so much, Jessica. My name is Mandisa Kumada. I come from Durban in South Africa. I'm part of the Green Anglicans movement and Climate Yes. So Climate Yes is a youth ecumenical summit which started in 2021 at the COP26. It was just an idea, and it's escalated through conversations of activists that were there, young activists that were there, and it came alive also in 2022 at the COP27. So we have about 15 national hubs, which cuts across 3 regions. We've got Africa region and the rest of the other regions. And our main aim as the Climate Yes is to bring all youth, environmental, climate activists together to amplify the voices of young people as the faith space, people from faith space. And we're also just advocating that young people should speak truth to power and pass on the baton to young people. So primarily we just exist to make sure that young people are at the table where the decisions are being made.
Thank you, Mandisa, and thank you for that really good explanation. And I think before I even introduce the rest of the speakers, let me just start with you with my first question. Today, I think we're looking at a very, very important topic. We want to see how young people could be a part of adapt to climate change. What are some of the things that young people can actually do, or what are they doing? So to start with, you've said you come from South Africa. Could you just give us a picture of how South Africa looks like in terms of climate change right now?
So currently in South Africa, we've been experiencing a lot of climate change, which is something that 10 years ago we didn't really experience. I live in Durban, as I've mentioned, and Durban has become a flood-prone city where whenever it rains, we are most likely to get flooding. And Durban, before, as I said, it used to be labeled as the only city in South Africa that had 2 seasons. It was summer and summer. But right now, if you would go to Durban, it's summer in South Africa. Right now, you are most likely to be wearing a jacket. So we've been experiencing a lot of heavy rains, and we've been experiencing also a lot of thunderstorms. Literally every Thursday to Sunday for the past 2 months, it has been thundering, extremely. And unfortunately, we lost a student from the University of KwaZulu-Natal a week ago, and he was struck by lightning while he was in his residence. So also in Johannesburg, I'm just going to highlight two cities in South Africa. Johannesburg has been experiencing tremors and has also been experiencing hailstorms this big. And that obviously affects livelihood and people's properties. And so we do experience the things that I say are new to us, but I should say we've seen them happening in the SADC region, and we didn't know that we could also be experiencing those things. And it's actually quite alarming, like I'm saying. If you look at that picture right now, it's what was happening, the hailstorm in Johannesburg. Just literally how it happened is that it just a neighbor would not experience the hailstorm while the other neighbor's house was completely destroyed. So those are the things that are happening in South Africa right now, very alarming. Yeah.
Mandisa, do you have something to say about that? There's a picture right in front of you there.
So what is also very alarming about what we are experiencing in South Africa is that nobody really can tell when it will happen. So we just literally rely on people's social media accounts whenever it happens. So there are no warnings that are being given to us by people that for the weather forecast. So these are the photos that we had to see on social media when it was happening, and people were taking photos of the effect of how big the thunder, the hailstorm was when that happened. So there's a lot of those. So yes, after a day or two, young people will make fun jokes about it. But when you look at the effect that happened and also the property that was destroyed, you realize just how huge the damage was, and it only lasted about 10-15 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mandisa. And this is actually quite alarming, if you can say. When I saw this photo, I thought they were eggs at first. Then I realized, like, okay, they are not. They are just as big as eggs, which is quite alarming. Thank you so much, Mandisa, for just sharing that with us. So that's how climate change looks like right now in South Africa. I know in different countries, different concept, it's all different. So right now we'll move to Rwanda. We just also take a look at how climate change is looking like in Rwanda, but obviously before we get to that question, this takes us to our next speaker, who happens to be Eric. Eric, if you could just introduce yourself and what it is that you do, and then we can get to see some of the climate change effects in Rwanda as of now.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. I'm Eric Bagenzi. I'm from Rwanda. I'm working in an organization, Rural Development, Adaptation and Service. And also I'm working as a volunteer youth activist in Climate Yes Rwanda, and also in Green Anglicans. So as young people are so strong to be engaged in so many things, I'm also a student doing masters in environmental economics and natural resource management. Thank you.
Eric, I think if you could just go straight to, let's look at how climate change looks like in Rwanda.
Yes. Can you go to my slide, please?
Okay. Sorry, tech things. We'll get it right. Can we just go to the slide, please? Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. The impact of climate change is everywhere. Yeah, as Mandisa said, in South Africa, in Rwanda, the impact of climate change is a big threat on the development of our country, and the reason why the urgent action is needed. So among more impact of climate change in Rwanda, we are facing major challenges in Rwanda, like increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. So Rwanda is a hill country. It is also called a country of 1,000 hills. So whenever it is frequent rain, it brings some challenges. So there is a problem also of reduced agricultural production, water scarcity, spread of waterborne disease, especially malaria, because this climate change, when it is heavy raining, it is good condition to mosquito, which is the source of malaria. Also, there is displacement and movement of people from the hilly, in flood and landslide prone area to the protected area. So when they are moving, they are leaving behind their properties. So some specific example how Rwanda is being affected by the impact of climate change. In 2020, the flood in Nyabihu district displaced over 5,000 people. So they displaced from their property, from their place to other protected place. So in 2020, landslide in Nyamagabe district killed over 20 people. In May this year, just a few months ago, floods killed almost 200 people in north and western province of Rwanda. So do you see how sorry, this can you help?
Can we? Yes, please. The slide. We need the.
It's a different one.
They are different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Previous one? Yes. Previous? Once again? Go, yeah, previous. Go behind. One, yes, one more time. Yes, you see these pictures. There you see Nyabihu district, where it is totally flooded. There were living some families, some people, some were displaced, others were died due to the flood as impact of climate change. You see landslide also in Nyabihu district. Do you see how impact of climate change destroying infrastructure, roads, and also the drought in Bugesera district. So this the clear picture of what is happening as impact of climate change in Rwanda. Next slide. So as you are talking about the climate change, green jobs is the major in adaptation on the impact of climate change. So green jobs can help to reduce greenhouse gases and mitigate climate change. So it is needed. They help to build resilience to climate change impact. They create new jobs opportunity. So when you are storing, for example, renewable energy, we have one project which is called Climate Smart Agriculture to mitigate the impact of climate change. This project was able to create 28 jobs. It is solar-powered irrigation system. So it is clean energy, it is green job, and also creating job to the young people, especially young farmers. Next slide. So our activism, our work as young people in Rwanda to support, to adapt on the impact of climate change, we are engaged in raising awareness and education. So we are especially working in church-owned schools, and we are sensitizing people from primary school, secondary school, how they can be aware and to take actions. One of our actions is tree planting, street cleaning, also climate smart agriculture, sustainable agriculture, all is what Climate Yes as young activists are doing in Rwanda. So we do, these are examples of some pictures where we're in action. Next slide. So, importance of youth in motivating our works. So we are motivated by our faith. Our faith is the powerful motivator that influences our work, because through our faith we have a call to serve others and to make positive impact on our world. Also, our faith emphasizes the importance of doing things in the right way, with honest integrity and commitment to excellence. So as Climate Yes, as a faith-based youth movement, we are also motivated by our faith. Next slide, please. So how can we improve the hope of aspiration of young people? It was also another point we want to share to you. Improving hope and aspiration of young people in Africa requires several approaches that address the root causes of the challenges and empower them to reach out the full potentials. Here are key strategies. In Africa, some people, due to the impact of climate change, some are moving from their location to other location, from their countries to other countries, where they believe to get better life, where they believe to get quality education. So in Africa, if the countries, if the churches, if the all faith-based organization invest in quality education, it can help young people to have hope, to work and to adapt on the impact of climate change. You can promote skills development and vocational, having vocational training center to train youth to adapt on the impact of climate change. Also, the important things is to create employment, because African young people are living in poverty. Some are jobless. If the faith-based organization can invest in creating better jobs, the African young people can live in hope and adapt on the impact on climate change. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate. So still talking about green jobs, I've just realized something when Eric was speaking, that he also has a green watch, and Mandisa has a green t-shirt in there. And literally almost the first row here, someone is in green. Yeah, there's green, there's green, there's green, and there's green here. So I'll be able to move to Fred. Fred is able to speak. He's going to speak about green jobs. He'll explain about the study that Tearfund did on green jobs. So he'll give us that, and also he'll be able just to recommend how young people can actually adapt through green jobs to climate change. Fred, if you could just introduce yourself, then you can just dive into your presentation.
Yeah, good afternoon. I hope my microphone is working. Perfect, excellent. My name is Frederick Njehu. I work for Tearfund, and Tearfund, we are a charity organization that works in more than 50 countries to respond to where the need is most. And we work with churches, we partner with churches, community-based organizations, and like-minded institutions to address the challenges of the community. And I work in the global advocacy team. Jessica is one of my colleagues, and I can see other colleagues in the room. I think mine is to speak to the good green jobs and put in this discussion into a different context and perspective, based on the practical studies that we've been doing, speaking to young people, assessing some of the innovations they are coming up with, and also trying to understand what are some of the challenges young people are facing, and how can those challenges be addressed going forward. So a couple of things I would like to say about youth and green jobs is the existence of the opportunities in the African continent, especially around innovations around climate smart agriculture, sustainable construction, tourism, name them. Very many sectors within our economic architecture have the potential to drive those innovations. But there's a huge disconnect between the support that is given to young people, especially by both state institutions as well as financial institutions, vis-a-vis the kind of work that they're doing. So in most cases, and what we found out when we spoke to young people and asked them, what is your source of capital? Where do you get your finances to start a recycling plant, a small-scale recycling plant? They say, I got money from my father, or my parent gave me some share of his savings. Because whenever you approach a microfinance institution or even a bank, they'll tell you, you're so risky to lend money to. The idea that you're supposed to implement, or the project idea that you have, we are not very sure that you're going to return the investments, or you're going to make profits out of that. So that disconnect still exists. But we've seen very many young people come up with very innovative ideas and actually run with them. And they have been able to actually even get the market for the products that they are doing. There's a project in Uganda that does the recycling of plastic wastes, and they sort of help communities get rid of their waste and use that plastic waste as an input or as a resource to their recycling plant. And the government would take notice and say, they said, you're helping us get rid of the waste from communities. You actually organized into waste pickers. You're able to even organize waste pickers and organize them in a way that creates value to these projects. So there is that huge disconnect between the state policies and the state incentives and also the state support. And of course, in some of the countries, like I think in Zimbabwe and Kenya, we found a lot of strict government regulations on good green jobs, where you have to obtain licenses, you have to show quality standards for the products that you're supposed to, to produce, and these standards, standards that have to meet the market requirements. And also, setting up, good green jobs is also an expensive affair. You have to get the licenses, you have to get the permits, and you have to get your local authorities to come and approve some of these projects. So those are the bottlenecks we are trying to address by saying that if you come to COP, for example, and say you're giving country XYZ this amount of climate finance to support, build resilience, and to support young innovators and young people, where are the young people who are doing the good green jobs? Can they get part of that finance? Can they get the grants to take their business ideas forward? And climate finance doesn't really have to end up into state officials making visits and spending a lot of money in coming up with policies and laws about climate change. It's about getting the money to where the need is most. And these young people are part and parcel of that ecosystem. They need to get requisite finance, climate finance, for them to invest into those good green jobs, and they're able to get the returns that they need the most. Let me end there for now. Thank you.
We're going to get a round of applause or something. I was waiting. Thank you so much, Fred, and thank you so much for that presentation. Really good and very clear. Glad that you did such a study, because it's very important, especially for such a time that young people in most of the countries suffering the issue of unemployment, but they could actually self-employ themselves through green jobs. But like you've mentioned, it's not an easy thing. So yeah, thank you so much for that. I will open up the stage for now for questions. If you have any question, so please straight to the point. Your question, if it's addressed to Fred, Eric, or Mandisa, feel free. Then we can just continue with, I think, one more set. Then we'll be able to just wrap up. So are there any questions from the audience? If you can just raise your hand. Yes, I'll get you. Any other person so I could get in a row? Okay, can I get a microphone? We have one person. Yeah, he's there. So please, you can introduce yourself and you can go ahead with your question as the microphone is coming to you.
So thank you very much for this important engagement. My name is David Munene. I work with the Catholic Youth Network for Environmental Sustainability in Africa, SAINESA, based in Nairobi and with chapters across 10 countries in Africa. My question resonates with the presentation that Fred just made. So the issue of an ambient, I think, green job environment is a big challenge. However, from a faith perspective, one of the things that I think we could exploit, and I would implore your thoughts on this, is what are the possibilities of engaging, for example, our legislators, for example, in the context of our country, because they are people of faith. I think largely in Africa, most people associate with some kind of faith. It doesn't have to be clearly defined, but they associate with some kind of faith. What opportunities lie there? For example, taking the case of Kenya, we've already got a Catholic parliamentarians group that already works together. Is there any chance, or do we speak to them as people of faith outside, but when they get into the legislation house, then it becomes something else altogether? My other question goes to my brother from Rwanda. Forgive my poor memory of names. But we also work with schools in Rwanda. And one of the questions we have been raising is the aspect of sustaining that growth so that it transforms from engaging them on event basis to transforming it into a formation that they carry throughout the curriculum, not one engagement, tree planting, and then that's it. Are you foreseeing a particular strategy that can be used to journey, for example, with even a particular child, not even a class or a school, a particular child from a very tender age all the way up? To my sister, Durban is a great city. It's the greatest surface city I think we have in the continent. What's like the resilience of the people now that hailstorms are something that is largely beyond our control until we take universal charge of the same? Thank you.
Thank you so much for those amazing questions. David, is it? Yeah, okay. I have a good memory. Yeah. Thanks, David. So one question to all our speakers. Mandisa, can I start with you, please?
Thank you so much for your question. Honestly speaking, as a South African right now and as a Durbanite, it has been more of an anxiety more than a resilience. Like I say, we do not get any warning of when do we get to expect heavy rain or hailstorm, or like I say to you, for the past 2 months, it has just been a series of thunderstorms from Thursday to Sunday every week. And so like what we do as the faith community is that we get the word out there. We use social media to advocate for people to look out. What are the things that you look out for? And fortunately this year there's been a presidential summit on environment. We sit in those spaces. We speak about what is it that we need to be doing as a country, as a continent, as a city. And one of the challenges that we've had in Durban when it comes to flooding was not just the heavy rain that comes, but it's also on waste management, which is something I'm also passionate about. The fact that the city is not able to withhold the amount of water that has to go through to the drainage system, and because there's no maintenance. And then the conversations that we're having is that the maintenance system of the drainage system is what causes much damage than the water that actually runs down whenever there's flooding or whenever there's big rain. So the resilience, honestly, is the fact that when everything dies out, a lot of people are into cleanups, making sure that they just partnering. There's literally like Durban Beach Cleanup, which is a group of different NGOs that are always just making sure that we get our hands dirty to clean up and not wait for the municipality. Unfortunately, like I say, if we do not maintain our structures, then even if it's not just a natural disaster, it's just a normal rain, we are most likely to have a lot of floods. So there isn't much resilience, I would say, but we are there on the ground to say to people, you can do something in your corner. And what we are doing is not just based on faith community, anyone. For instance, if I may just digress a bit, we had looting 2 years ago where people were burning things and taking stuff. It was citizens who came together and say, well, we need to clean up because we need to use these malls. We need to make sure that our cars are able to drive on clean roads. So it's been community-based. It's been a matter of just escalating what you have, the information that you have, and just also using children in schools. And social media has been doing wonderful.
Yeah? David looks happier with the question. Okay, thank you so much, David. Eric, if we could just respond, then Fred, you could also respond to David's question.
Thank you so much for the question. So we do not have any particular strategy to go to person, but we use some gatherings. For example, we go to the church school to raise awareness of these kids, because sometimes they go from school or to school, they destroy some trees, but when they are aware about the importance of trees, they take care of them. And another strategy we have, what we call community work, in Chinyarwanda, in our languages, umuganda. So during community work, our focal poet, Climate Yes members are the key person to give a message depending on the work designed on that day. Also, we have our youth work at church level. So we organize specific work. Sometimes we organize tree planting, we organize this awareness campaign or city area cleaning. So removing plastic bags, these things in water channels. So there are these strategies, but we are still growing. Maybe other strategies will come later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. Fred, if you could just go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, David, for that question. I think the most important thing when we want to speak to our leaders, our parliamentarians, is to speak to their hearts and minds. Because once we present them with very credible information about the situation on the ground, they'll be able to listen. And I'm sure they'll be able to, we can be able to also support them with the stories from communities, the stories from the young people, and what ideas are coming up from them, and the role they can play in supporting those kind of ideas, including legislation, including financial support, and passing, legislations that have incentives to actually support the young people in those ventures. And for me, the other thing is, how do we present this information to them? Because sometimes when you're speaking to our leaders, we have an aspect of being very vulnerable and presenting problems. But I think we have an opportunity to actually present factual solutions that can work and show them, we've been working on XYZ projects. We've seen the benefits. We want to scale this up. We want to franchise this. We want to, put this project at a bigger scale. And leaders are able to actually listen. I've met a lot of our leaders at COP. And every time we have conversations with them, you tell them the opportunities exist. The young people have the energy, they have the skills, and they have the knowledge. But it's the policies that you put in place that are a hindrance to that, to them realizing the potential, because you guys have very strict standards, strict, operating procedures, including high taxes. You also have very strict regulations on how you can obtain a permit. So those are the actual things we need to tell them, and tell them, it's actually very possible if you created that conducive environment for young people to thrive. And you're actually addressing, as someone was saying, multiple crises. You're addressing the climate crisis. You're building young people's resilience. You're also giving them hope to actually be able to earn a living, or even, better themselves. And, practically we've also seen, like I was on a metro today, and I met a few young people from my country, and I asked them, what are you doing in Dubai? One of them told me, I'm an IT specialist in an industry. It took me 4 years in my country to get a job, Everything I was trying didn't work out. So those are stories that you tell our leaders, that you're addressing a crisis of unemployment crisis, but also you're dealing with the climate crisis, where young people need to find alternative ways of surviving and creating employment for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Mandisa?
If I may perhaps chip in on engaging faith parliamentary leaders, is that in our country we've been using a lot of networking. We have a faith organization called SafeSea, which is based in Cape Town. So what we're basically doing is that we are there on the streets. Just recently we were speaking about the Okavanga. In Namibia, we are seeing there, our bishops are there wearing their cassocks on the streets, saying no to the explorations or whatever that speaks to us. And so when faith leaders are seen in the forefront, speaking a language that young people are also speaking, it sort of makes it noticeable. And then we were able to now say to, like I said, we've got the Presidential Climate Colloquium to say, well, we are SafeSea. We flag all the organizations that deal with climate change to say, well, it is time for now to give us a seat in the table so that we can start to have negotiations. And they also now consult with us to say, we are dealing with issues of coal in Newcastle, in KwaZulu-Natal, or in Mpumalanga. You've got churches there, you've got mosques, you've got synagogues there. What are people on the ground saying? So it has been collaborative work, but it has also been being present whenever there are issues that affect the community with faith leaders. If my Archbishop Thabo is there in Cape Town and wherever we're speaking about fossil fuels, then it's most likely to strike the president. The president is most likely to know Thabo than Mandisa. So when they're there in the forefront, we're saying, listen, we've got people on the ground, and who are first responders when it comes to climate change issues, and it's always the church, it's always the NGOs. So being present and also just having collaborative work instead of working silos has actually worked so much for us in South Africa. So maybe just making sure that you collaborate with also other faith institutions and use your own bishops, your archbishops, your rabbis to make sure that they also have a space where they talk to each other like we're doing as young people. We're part of Climate, yes, it's a Christian organization, but we're also part of the interfaith community of other young people where we just like amplifying the voices of young people.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mandisa. Can I get one or two last questions? Then we'll be able to just wrap up if there's any question from the audience. Okay. Then I'll be able to just get our concluding remarks from our speakers. So I think I can start with Eric. Eric, you can just share your concluding remarks. Then I would like to know, Eric and Mandisa, in your own context, what are young people actually doing? Eric, you actually mentioned in your presentation, so I think I'll throw that to Mandisa. If you could just share what young people are actually doing, young people of faith, and also what young people can do, your recommendation, because we keep on talking about, when we talk about the issues of climate, they're not by age or by region or race and whatnot. It's everyone in it. So now we're looking at what young people can actually do to make things a little easier. Then you can just conclude. So I can start with you.
Right. I will just flag context. Young people are looking around where they are, what are the biggest issues that they're facing. And we've identified ours in Durban. We have issues around flooding. So young people in Durban are responding to, like I spoke about, how we have adapted, making sure that we clean up so that there are no drainage clogging. So young people in Cape Town are also into advocacy because then, there's like a lot of other issues that affect them. So we are more on empowering young people through programs of partnering like with Climate, yes, with Tearfund, with Renew Our World, where we sort of train and share ideas of how do you advocate for your context and for your environment that affects you in an area where you are, because our country has got its own challenges. Some are facing water shedding. We've got load shedding in South Africa where you go for hours without electricity. So the advocacy there is the issue of renewable energy. And so we are big on empowering young people. And also on areas where there's mudslides, where there's flooding, we are big on planting spekboom. I don't have an English word for that. And also mangroves, which are actually proven to be good in withholding sand erosion, or especially around the beaches. So we are on to tree planting. We are also on to making sure that young people understand the era that we are on, and that can only be done through advocacy and just making sure that young people don't just hear about it, but they also are able to identify any other challenges. But lastly, I would say we're also encouraging young people to establish eco clubs. So in eco club could see young people just in a school setup or in a church setup or in a community setup doing activities that are going to be speaking about physical health, that are going to be equipping young people on one of the biggest pandemics we have in South Africa, which is gender-based violence. So we marry the two so that young people are as engaged as they can be to avoid situations that come with climate change issues of unemployment. Therefore, you see more people most likely to be abused. So we capacitate young people in making sure that the conversations that they are having are contextual, and not just contextual, just to make sure that in their context, they also are able to have solutions within themselves. We're saying nothing about us without us.
Thank you so much, Mandisa. Eric, I'll go to you. What are your concluding remarks?
Thank you. What I can say is that this is the day to take action, not tomorrow, because when you wait, you still wait, but when you work, you work. The best thing I always enjoy is the first trees I planted somewhere. They were avocados. Today they are harvested, they are being harvested. When I see, I enjoy fresh air, I enjoy the fruits. So everyone can do what he can in his text, in his context. And this is the day to start. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eric. This is the day to start. Please, you can do better. Why are you feeling shy? You're feeling shy to clap for Eric. Thank you, Eric. This is a day to start. It's now or never. Yeah. Fred, I think I would also like you, even in your concluding remarks, could you just kindly give some recommendation when it comes to green jobs? We have faith leaders in here, we have young people in here, we have state leaders in here. So just your recommendation on how things could be made a little easier, especially for the young people to just thrive when it comes to green jobs.
Thank you for your question. And I don't think I have the magic answer for that. I have an idea of what I've seen work best for the young people. And it starts with they themselves becoming much more organized, using the available resources. And when I talk about available resources, I'm talking about what can be offered within the community. I've seen very successful green jobs being supported by churches, for example. That's not something anyone would consider as support. You know, getting a piece of land to do a project. A piece of land that's just lying idle. It's owned by the church, within the church land. That's a pure, magic. That's a pure example of how, young people can utilize an available resource. Plus, taking the courage to actually do the green jobs, to start a project without worrying about what's going to happen at this project. I think young people are bold enough to make those, key decisions. And also speaking in one voice, bringing the voices to where the decisions are being made, like here, and saying, we have very many ideas, potentially good ideas that can be scaled up if we got additional resources, and this is how organized we are. So those three I can think about in terms of coming up with solutions and being at the forefront of ensuring the jobs are good and they're green. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. We can do better. Yeah, thank you so much, Mandisa, Eric, and Fred, just for making sure that we really speak in all angles about the issue of young people and green jobs, and also just what young people can get to do. So a huge thanks to all of you for finding time to just come through and be a part of this conversation. We really, really do appreciate. And for Climate Yes, like Mandisa mentioned, this is a movement of young people all around the world. So if you want to get to learn more, you can get to follow Mandisa, or you can follow them on socials, that is Climate Yes. And also if you want to get to learn more about Tearfund or the Green Job report that Fred has been talking about, you can also just get to follow Fred and get to have that conversation and get to learn more and see what you can do in your community, for your community, or in your institution, or just for the young people around you, or even you as a young person, what you can actually do, whatever notes you can take from any of the three of our speakers today. Have they been marvelous? Haven't they been awesome? Yeah? Thank you so much. We really, really do appreciate. My name is Jessica, and if I was on radio, I'll probably say signing out now. So I'll just say that. So signing out, and I'm just going to leave for some announcements. Yes, please. Yeah.